is just going to be huge in this matchup.
Which player's Batterskull? That's the question.
Well, I think Dustin's. I think that he has, well, I guess a lot of ways to switch it up, but he has counter spells.
Right.
He can try and stop them, and, you know, he has a, I would give it to him on this one, but in sideboard, looking at it, it looks like Steven has some Crossing Grips.
Right.
He also has chokes.
Ooh.
Yeah, so he's got
nice.
a lot of nasty stuff to bring in this matchup, and, you know, looking at it, I think that maybe Dustin's very ambitious mana base might be the end of him. Dustin's on the play.
3 Wasteland from Stephen Baxter's deck. So
yeah, it's just, you know, I'm just looking at Dustin's deck, and he only has, let's see, what does he have? He has 3 islands, 1 plains, and 3 tundras for colored mana.
Right.
So it would not be that hard to just get him, you know, just wasteland him out. Make it really hard for him to play his double blue spells.
Especially with choke afterboard.
Yeah, choke, if he can resolve a choke.
Right, and then afterboard, Stephen Baxter can aggressively target the basic islands with the Vindicates, aggressively target the basic planes.
Yeah.
We'll see how it plays out. I think there's going to be a lot of play in this matchup.
Yeah, this should be a real interesting, really proactive match.
Yeah. I think the player who plays better is going to win. That's my prediction.
I like the prediction on most matches.
Yeah. This one in particular, though.
So Dustin leads off with the Tundra. Passes turn. Steven, I can't really see what's in his hand here. He's holding it back, but he looks like he's going to start off with the top.
Ooh, Bayou into Sensei's Divining Top. Now, if you're Dustin, what deck do you put your opponent on?
I don't know. Some sort, I mean...
I guess it doesn't matter because you have a Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, that's true. You know, you put him on some sort of rock deck,
junky rock.
Just note that he only plays 1 Sensei's Divining Top.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is. And unsurprisingly, Batterskull flies the top of the deck.
The Skull. Coming in for Dustin Biggers, threatening next turn. And Stephen Baxter really has no great way to deal with that. Only that 1 Kasali Pride Mage.
Yeah, so, you know, he does have 3 green stones to get it, but, you know, but finding the point where that's actually going to work out is going to be hard.
Yeah, it is. Now, Stephen could take a gamble, Wasteland the Tundra, but instead he will play a green sun for 1. He'll try and fetch up a Noble Hierarch here. He needs to get his mana base started if he has any chance of catching up to Dustin's draw.
Yeah, he needs Knights, he needs Confidants, he needs his own Stoneforges. He just needs to get some stuff out if he's ever going to be the Batterskull.
Right. And we'll see what Dustin Biggers has here, Stephen Baxter. We'll see if the decision to not wasteland Dustin's Tundra will cost him. Nope.
See, nope. He is going to Brainstorm.
Wow, so really, really powerful opening for Dustin Biggers.
Oh, wow.
Wow, indeed.
And we see a sword off that. That might be very big here. It is really going to let Dustin, with 2 activations of the Stoneforge.
Yeah, get both of his equipment into play.
Yeah, both the equipment that are just very, very good in this matchup, you know?
Right.
I think it was arguable that he could have gotten the Sword of Feast of Famine over the Batterskull.
Yeah, I mean, facing off against a Bayou and a Sensei's Divining Top.
Yeah, you know the card's going to be good, and now he has both.
Right. Now, this is a great draw from Dustin Biggers because he can go end of turn, Violent Batterskull, untap, play a land, Violent Sword, Equip Sword, and all of a sudden, Stephen Baxter, if he takes that hit.
He can't chump block it. He can't do a whole lot against it.
Right.
And Steven's considering something. I don't know if he's thinking maybe he can Green Sun for 2 to get a Kasali Pride Mage.
That would be good if he had another land.
It would be, yeah. If he doesn't have another land, it's not very impressive. 2 mana.
His own Stoneforge.
Yeah.
So we're going to have dueling Batterskulls here, it looks like, if this resolves.
Oh, looks like he might have a Spell Snare for it.
Yeah, we'll see what Dustin Biggers has here.
That is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Being able to stop your opponent's Stoneforge Mystics in this kind of deck.
Right. A lot better at it than Inquisition of Kozilek, that's for sure.
Much better.
And this does look like a Spell Snare.
Yep, Spell Snare stops it.
That does give Stephen Baxter one more turn, though.
Slows him down a bit.
Yep.
And now they have Wastelands pointed at each other's faces.
Yep. Oh, and a Jace drawn by
Wow.
Dustin. Now, if I'm Dustin, I slam that Jace, I bounce that Noble.
I agree. I completely agree. You just get so far ahead on mana.
Yeah, with the Wasteland in play, you'll be able to Wasteland next turn.
And you already know, Steven missed a land drop.
Yeah.
So he gets behind on mana. That Wasteland is going to be a huge game.
Wow, Dustin just says go. I think slamming the Jace is by far the best play here.
I agree. I mean, he would have to draw another land if he is afraid of Vindicate or Maelstrom Pulse.
Right. So we'll see what he has planned. He might have a counterspell in his hand.
Knight of the Reliquary.
And
What does Dustin have? Stop that. Does he have he's got plenty of stuff in his deck. He's got swords, he's got counterspell, he has Force of Will.
Yep, definitely has ways to stop it, but it looks like
Looks like a counterspell.
Looks like a counterspell.
Oh no, he's just bringing in a Batterskull.
Wow, I think Dustin's play not to play Jace is defensible if you do have a way to counter it, to counter a spell, but if you don't, I don't even think it's close.
Yeah. Now what he can do here is play the Sword of Feast and Famine, equip it, attack, untap his lands, and then play Jace.
Right.
And he didn't even vial it in, he just hardcast it.
Yep. Keeping his Stoneforge Mystic untapped.
And this Batterskull's going to come in.
For a huge chunk of life.
6 life, a card, untapping 5 lands.
That's pretty powerful.
I like that card.
Yep.
That if I could get that on in one card, I would do it.
That'd be pretty good.
That would be pretty good.
For the low cost of 1 and a white?
Yeah, I'd play that.
Not bad. So Stephen Baxter discards a card, takes 6. Dustin Biggers gains 6, untaps all his lands, and presumably
Now
Jace
he's
will be
gonna play the
bouncing
Jace.
this night.
Yep. He's probably going to bounce the Knight and Wasteland the Bayou.
Yep. Looks like it to me.
He is really putting Steven...
Steven just scoops him up.
Scoops him up.
That board state was just way too much. All those mythic rares. So much power on Dustin Biggers' side. And really, winning the die roll was pretty huge there.
And it's amazing. Again, Legacy is a format that has, what now? 19 years of cards? 18 years of cards?
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle there. And how many of those cards were printed in the last 5 years?
A lot. A real lot.
Yeah, Stoneforge.
Look at that board.
Yeah, look at that board. The lands, okay, the lands are all over 10 years old,
Yep.
but pretty much everything else has been printed in the last 5 years.
Yeah, you had Stoneforge, Batterskull, Sword, Jace, Noble, Knight.
Knight, yeah.
Sensei's Divining Top wasn't. Wasteland wasn't.
Little older than that.
Yeah,
but,
a little older, but not much. Almost all of that board could be played in Modern.
Pretty close.
If they weren't all banned.
Yeah, that's a small issue.
Sure.
That's a small detail.
But looking ahead here to the post-sideboard games, we already talked about it a little bit. Choke for Stephen Baxter. Crows and Grip for Stephen Baxter. Thrun the Last Troll.
Yeah, he really has a big sideboard for this.
Yeah, he does.
Which is not surprising, because Blue-White Stoneforge is definitely one of the top Legacy decks.
Yep, Tier 1.
Yeah, Tier 1. It's hard to really quantify what Tier 1 means in Legacy.
It is.
But, it's certainly, if you're talking about decks, Blue-White Stoneforge is in that in the short list. That, I think Maverick you'd probably list as Tier 1.
I put Maverick up. I put Rug Delver up there.
Yeah.
Those 3 are the only 3 that I would really consider to be Tier 1, I think.
So those are the decks everyone's aiming for, and Stephen Baxter has brought a big enough sideboard for them. Now on the other side, Dustin Biggers, he does not have nearly as much. He's got a Jit he can bring in if he wants to, kill some of Stephen's smaller creatures. He's only really seen Stoneforge and Knight of the Reliquary, which just not going to kill, and Noble, but he has to assume there's at least a few more that could play in there.
Exactly.
He could bring in Wrath of God.
Yep, he definitely will.
And I think he will. Yeah, I think you're right.
That's great against almost every Noble Hierarch deck.
But the rest of the cards, maybe the Paths.
Path is all right. I might see him bringing in a few. I don't think he'll bring in the full 3 though. He really has to figure out what mix of threats and answers he wants here.
Yeah, it doesn't have a whole lot that is really good to sideboard out in this matchup. So he's going to really have to work to figure out what the optimal deck is post-sideboard.
Right. That's usually the hard part about these Legacy decks. All the cards are just so good, you have to figure out how you want to configure your deck post-board. It's pretty tough. I mean, you cannot take out Spell Snare versus any Stoneforge deck.
No.
Especially not on the draw. Cannot.
Yeah, and he doesn't know it yet, but this deck has Dark Confidant. You know, he might suspect that. It's hard not to.
Exactly.
That's a pretty big card in this format, but...
You know what? I would probably take out Force of Will here if I was Dustin Biggers. That's a card that's really going to underperform in this matchup.
That's probably true. I believe that.
You know, countering Stoneforge Mystic is okay. But you'd way rather just Spell Snare it. You'd way rather just Swords it.
Well, you'd rather, but you do have to consider that you're on the draw.
Right.
And you know, unless you have a Spell Snare, how do you deal with a turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic?
Fetching up a Batterskull? You probably just Swords the Mystic. Not the best solution, but it works. I would be way more likely to take out Force of Will on the play. I'll definitely give you that. That's for sure. I would probably keep like 2 on the draw, 0 on the play. That'd probably be my configuration.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. So these players, both playing for top 8, sitting on 16 points. They're 5-1-1. They just need one more win, and then they just have to pray that their tiebreakers get them there.
Yeah, and sometimes it happens. You know, back in the day, I remember when I started playing Magic, 5-1-1 always made top 8, and it's just not the case anymore. The larger tournaments get, the harder and harder it is to not go X1. You know, more and more X1-1s are missing on tiebreakers, and we've seen this game, or this tournament, if everyone drew up to X1-1, what, 3 people would miss?
Yeah, I think 3 people would miss if that happened.
So
that's a lot of people to miss. Usually it's only like 1. This time it's 3 people. So a lot of unintentional draws really mucked up the math here.
Right. And so, you know, they're, you know, in a precarious position because, you know, one of these guys can win and still miss. But, you know, you got to have that hope. You got to have that dream. You got to hope that the tiebreaker gods work out for you.
Exactly. The only thing you can do is play. Play and hope.
Yep.
So Dustin Biggers takes game 1 in really convincing fashion. Stephen Baxter, I think his deck has a lot more play in it than that last game really indicated.
I completely agree. I think that missing that land drop was humongous.
Yep.
I think Dustin's hand was just phenomenal.
Yeah, that was among the best you could hope for.
Yeah, and you know, I think that Dustin would have done a little bit better if you know, I think you're right. If he played the Jace. Bounce that you know, mana producing guy, been able to wasteland the Bayou.
Exactly.
Next turn. But you know,
either way, he still just crushed his opponent mercilessly.
Yeah. Yep.
I just really want to see Bitter Blossom in action here. I would love to see us start turn 1 Inquisition, turn 2 Bitter Blossom.
Bitter Blossom is quite the powerful card.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, really, Dustin does not have a lot of ways to deal with Bitter Blossom.
No. Aside from countering it, almost none.
You know, he can get a Batterskull out to race it, but that's about it. The inevitability that Bitter Blossom adds to the match is just humongous.
Yeah. I'm interested to only see 2 in Steven's deck. It's just an odd number.
Yeah, because it's a card that you almost always want on turn 2.
Right. Turn 5 Bitter Blossom is not very impressive.
We look at our 7s, and Steven is mulliganing.
Yep, Dustin Biggers instantly keeps his. They're down on the table. He looks pretty happy.
He looks ecstatic. He is pumping the fist that his opponent is going to have 6 cards.
Yeah, in your winning in, up again, opponent going to 6. He looks pretty happy. He looks like a man who can taste the top 8. Don't get ahead of yourself, though, Dustin. You still have to get through Stephen Baxter.
So now that Steven has mulliganed, what do you think that does for Dustin's chances this game?
I would say they increase from about 50%, between 48 to 52%, maybe up to 59%.
Wow.
To use some very scientific and well-crafted numbers.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, I think the mulligan really hurts Stephen Baxter.
I agree. And you know, that's one of the problems of playing these mana creatures like Noble Hierarchy.
Right.
You know, the more cards, the more times you mulligan, the higher the chance that you're gonna run into a situation where you just get overloaded on mana.
Right. Also, these creatures that you sort of count as lands, count as half a land, they don't do anything without a land. And
is that a turn 1 Bojuka Bog?
Bojuka Bog for Stephen Baxter.
Oh wow! And
instantly wastelanded. So Dustin Biggers knows turn 1 Bojuka Bog means not much land for Stephen.
Yeah, it means he is light.
But there's a Verdant Catacombs. He'll get at least 1 mana here.
You have to believe he's going to get a basic forest here.
Yeah, unless he desperately needs the bio, he would love to get a basic. Nope.
Oh no, he's getting a
Savannah. Interesting choice.
He is daring Dustin to have a second. Second Wasteland.
Yeah. And you know, there aren't many white spells in Stephen Baxter's deck for him to cast. There's Knight of the Reliquary, there's one Pride Mage, there's Stoneforge, but...
And here comes a Noble.
Yep. Noble Hierarch.
So Dustin Biggers, does he have a way to deal with that Noble Hierarch? Is he just going to hold back with a Spell Snare and try to get something?
It looks like it.
Passes the turn.
And if Stephen Baxter could play a 3-drop here, Knight of the Reliquary, that would be huge.
How about a Choke?
A Choke, wow. Choke would be
Choke
huge,
would be
too.
Huge here.
Choke would demand that Force of Will from Dustin Biggers.
And, but, you know, not that a Knight would be bad either.
No, they'd both be fine.
There's some discussion about something. I'm not sure what.
An unchecked Knight is...
Oh, here we go.
Ooh, that is a choke.
Force of Will check. He sees he has one, and now what do you pitch? Snapcaster Mage.
Wow. Stephen Baxter will take that.
And there is now no way Dustin Biggers will be taking out those Force of Wills.
No, not after he sees the choke.
I think in the dark you might be able to take them out. I think after seeing choke, you have to know you need those in.
Right.
And very, very classy Mirage planes.
I like the Mirage lands. Almost every one. Very nice. Dustin Biggers sitting with a Spell Snare, a Wrath of God, and a Batterskull in his hand, along with a Caracas and a Flooded Strand.
So Stephen Baxter is in a great position right here. He's, you know, he has plenty of cards he can play. It looks like, is this a 2-drop or is it a 3-drop? It's a 3-drop, so Dustin's not really going to have a way to deal with this, especially if it's a Knight.
Nope, he's going to have to Wrath of God.
But the Wrath of God can't happen for 2 turns.
Right. Do you know what feels good, Sam?
What feels good?
Being able to say Wrath of God and have it be the right card name. It really does.
They're all Wrath of God, let's just be honest.
So Green Sun for 2, Stephen Baxter.
Let's see, what is he going to get here? Does he get the Tarmogoyf?
I think it'll probably be the Tarmogoyf. Probably just want to put as much pressure on Dustin Biggers as possible.
I like that a lot of these decks play one Tarmogoyf now.
Yeah.
Because he was always like just kind of a big fat dumb idiot. But sometimes, you know, you just need a big fat dumb idiot.
Exactly.
You just need some muscle, and he's just the muscle. And, you know, I love that all these decks now, you know, you got Green Sun Zenith, you're like, I don't need all this muscle. I just need one big guy.
One guy. Often you just need one Tarmogoyf. You don't need multiples.
No. So just one big guy to take stuff down.
Yep. So
Steven, yeah, or sorry.
Steven shuffling that Green Sun back in.
Yep. Dustin, no immediate answer to that. Tarmogoyf, let's see, there's an enchantment, which we don't see it very often.
No.
An instant and a land.
Yep, so 3/4 Tarmogoyf. Pretty good for 1 and a green.
It is pretty good. Now, next turn, I believe Steven has a Vindicate in his hand.
Oh, wow. That would be
take it up by 1 more.
So Dustin Biggers draws a Jace for the turn, but nothing to play. Just passes it right back to Steven. This looks like a Maze of If. Not the land Steven wants.
Just the land that he has.
Uh-huh.
He's going to tap 3. Is that going to be for a Vindicate? Is it going to be...
Well, with full knowledge of Dustin's hand, I strongly recommend a Vindicate. But Stephen Baxter does not have that luxury. Wow. So he's just asking to get Wrath of God. Wow.
Yeah.
Dustin Biggers. I think I would have just Wrath there.
I would have as well. And that adds 2 more damage. Or 1 more damage.
Creature, enchantment, instant land. So 4/5 Tarmogoyf becomes a 5/6 from Knight. Dustin drops to 14. Yep, Steven reminds him about Exalted. Dustin corrects his life total. And have to imagine we'll see Wrath here.
I think that's probably the play.
He might give Steven 1 more turn to play a creature.
That Flooded Strand does not tap for mana. There we go.
Nope, so white, blue floating, and Steven Baxter has to know it's coming here.
I mean, he knows it's that or Jace.
Right, and you know, he could play a Jace here.
He could.
Give Stephen Baxter some more time to overextend.
I still like going with Wrath, though.
Yeah, to clear the board, you know, leaving your opponent at 2 land, that just seems way too good.
Especially because he has a Wasteland in his hand.
Yep, it'll make that spell snare look a little embarrassing if you Wrath, but you have to realize you made a mistake and just slam the Wrath here.
Yeah.
No,
he goes with
Jace.
Jace.
Dustin has other plans. And Jace will bounce that Tarmogoyf. It's the only mode it can enter right now. Oh, now, wow, he brainstorms.
Interesting.
I can't say I like it.
Yeah, that Jace is just going to die.
Yeah, it's going to be a glorified blue 2 brainstorm. imagine if he had not cast Spell Snare, untapped, played Wrath of God, his opponent sitting on 2 land. Yeah, I can't help but feel that Dustin messed up a little bit this game.
And Steven, before I was thinking, well, maybe he'll just, that he might, if there was a Wrath of God, then he could wait a turn and vindicate the Jace, but now he can just attack the Jace.
Right. Dustin Biggers will save 5 damage from that. And now, Steven Baxter does have the decision. He could just vindicate the Jace, giving Tarmogoyf +2/+2.
That's true.
Putting Dustin on a 2-turn clock. And that's what he does.
And he goes for it, and he lets it die.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Steven Baxter, I deduce right now, I just assume that my opponent does not have a Wrath of God.
Yeah, you have to.
Right, he spell snared your creature.
Does he have a Wrath of God?
It could not be a Wrath. I thought it was a foil 8th Wrath.
You know what it is? I think that's the Batterskull.
No, I saw that one too. I think he put that card on top with Jace.
Oh,
whatever
okay.
card I did see.
Gotcha.
So we'll see what it was.
Yeah. If he has it, he's going to play it right here.
Right. The Wasteland. Oh, you know what? We were just wrong about that. I must have misread that because there's no way he puts that second to bottom.
And now, I mean, he has a Crucible, it looked like.
Yep.
So he certainly can just start destroying all of Steven Baxter's lands.
Right, but he's dead in 1 turn from that Tarmogoyf.
Well, there's a sword in his hand. The swords.
Right.
So, yep, there comes the Crucible. He gets to start wastelanding with impunity next turn.
Probably goes for the black source here.
Yep. Steven clarifies.
He's like, but I want this one.
I would like a black source. Passes the turn. Steven Baxter cannot be... he has to know that Dustin has swords in his hand.
Right. There's no getting around. Dustin would have just scooped if he didn't.
So he gets to gain some life.
Yep. He'll untap, draw a land. Not what he needs. He really needs to draw a threat. The window is closing with that Crucible in play.
Very quickly. And the Tarmogoyf goes away.
Yep. Steven Baxter gains some life.
It is RFG, don't think. Okay, there we go.
Gains should be 6 life.
Yeah, the life obviously at this point is not as relevant as it could be.
No, definitely not.
Replays the Wasteland. And now the question is, do you just keep wasting, or does he have a threat? You can just play the Batterskull, which I personally kind of like doing.
Yeah, me too. I mean, you can't just sit on that Wasteland forever.
And actually, the problem would be that Noble Hierarch would be attacking for damage.
Right. And if Steven Baxter does draw a threat, he can just pop that Verdant, tap the Noble, resolve it while you're busy wastelanding.
And next turn, he can always wasteland, play from graveyard to wasteland.
Right.
So he's not really getting any further behind.
So Steven Baxter uses the fetch land, goes to thin his deck a little bit. He knows that this turn he has to draw something good.
He's up 20 life, but not for long.
No.
This is really the most important turn of the match at this point.
Yeah, Steven Baxter
all riding on this.
Has to top deck here.
He does have a swords. He can buy himself more time.
He does, but it's really not that Batterskull that's worrying him at this point, I don't think. Dryad Arbor, okay. I might have gone with the basic there.
I probably would have too. He knows that he's got Wasteland recursion.
But he wants to connect with this Dryad Arbor. Maybe he's hoping to draw some sort of equipment.
Yeah, if he gets a sword.
Yeah, light and Shadow. Would return no creatures. Steven Baxter draws, hides it from us.
Yep. He just wanted to see what is going on in his brain. It is a secret to us and to Dustin.
Ooh, Sword of Light and Shadow.
There is the Light and Shadow.
Okay. Unfortunately, does not give protection from Wasteland.
No, it does not.
Oh, actually, Steven Baxter has that Kozali Pride Mage in the graveyard from earlier, the one that got spell snared. So assuming he can connect with that sword...
Which does give protection from Batterskull, too.
Right. Protection from Germ Token.
Batterskull comes in.
Yep, Stephen Baxter
discards a land.
chooses not to swords it.
Well, he's oh yeah, right, he doesn't use sword.
I guess he wants to save that for a real threat here. And 4 mana, could this be a Jace?
Jace would be pretty big right now. Oh, it's an looks like an Elspeth.
Oh.
Another card which does not actually
No.
cannot block. Is it an Elspeth? It looks like it's an Elspeth.
It's a white card that I don't recognize. It might be from Elspeth versus Tezzeret.
If it is an Elspeth, that token is also not going to be able to block.
Oh, that's an old school Wrath of God.
Oh, it's an old school Wrath of God. Yep.
So, God says die.
This is just. This is huge.
Noble Hierarch to the bin.
Noble Hierarch and the Dryad Armor.
And the Dryad
and
Armor.
Wasteland this turn.
Wow. So powerful for Dustin
Oh no,
Biggers.
it's not Wasteland because he played.
Oh, he played
Oh,
Flooded Strand.
Yeah, he
and,
played Flooded Strand.
And
so
that was the card that I thought was the Wrath of God.
I gotcha. So next turn, he is just going to Wasteland that last land of his, and he has all the time in the world to recast and play Batterskull.
Yeah. And now if Stephen Baxter had just gotten a basic with that fetch land, he'd have 1 mana source in play, better than none.
End of turn, Batterskull returns, and it to Dustin's hand, and it's going to be coming right back out.
Right.
Riptide Lab for Dustin.
Huh.
Doesn't do a lot right now, but it's there in reserve just in case something happens and Dustin just draws runner basics.
Yeah. That's about his only out at this point. He has 1 forest, 1 plains, and 1 swamp in the deck.
It's not a lot.
So drawing to 3 here.
Now he still has some fetch lands left, but not even too many of those.
Right, and as long as Dustin has that wasteland in play, he can go end of turn, waste your fetch, untap, play wasteland.
Yeah.
Waste whatever you get, assuming it's not a basic.
Well, I mean, I would have to imagine it's going to be
a
basic.
pretty silly assumption, but we assumed that before too. So Stephen Baxter drawing a Bayou. He should hold that until he has a Noble to go with it.
Yeah, he cannot feel great about this right now. He is getting pretty far behind. He really only has a few turns here to draw these 2 basics. Even beyond just the the life swings, the more cards Dustin draws, the less likely that anything's going to resolve.
Right, and we know Dustin has a Force of Will in hand, but Stephen can't know that. He still has to have a little hope at this point. Draw some basics.
Maze of Ith, which the Wasteland is just going to deal with.
Yep, Wasteland, end of turn. Dustin untaps, he draws, he'll replay Wasteland. The 1 Crucible of Worlds really showing its worth here.
Very much. Oh, and a Jit.
That will jump onto the Batterskull token.
That is just increasing this clock. All of a sudden, he's attacking for 4 here.
Yep, Stephen Baxter is 17, Dustin Biggers up to 11. 2 counters on the Jit. So even basic forest into Noble Hierarch won't do it for Stephen Baxter.
2 more turns now with that Jit. 2 more turns before it's lethal.
Yep, Stephen Baxter misses on basic. Slipping away from him here as Dustin Biggers very close to locking up his...
Yep, and he
oh,
scoops,
wow.
And there's the handshake.
Dustin Biggers improves to 6-1-1. Has to cross his fingers now. Hope he top 8s.
Yep, he is in the position. Now, he had the slightly lower tiebreakers.
Yep, he had 53% coming into this round.
But that does not put him out.
No, there was 1 lower,